Because we travel for television every single week, I try to find a place that has decent Wi-Fi or at least has an Ethernet port for me to stream from. I keep pushing forward into this area of YouTube and Twitch because one day I won't be able to fall on my back and my neck anymore, but I will be able to play video games. I will be able to produce content. I never would envision that a guy of my stature who speaks my way, who pretty much is himself at all times, would ever make it on national television. But now we have a viable place to do that. I've put a lot of abuse and I've put a lot of time into doing this, but I honestly wouldn't change the journey for anything because it makes it so much sweeter now.
We're back. Wrestling is back. It's like when your dad goes to the gas station to get cigarettes and he doesn't come home. He came back. Dad came home.
A very precise situation.
Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. We are here live on Discord every single week. We have a great guest lineup tonight. I am Kevin Lieber, and with me, as always, is Matthew Tabor.
Yeah, we're in the midst of the grind in the lead up to VidCon, which is the first time Kevin or I will have left our houses in years.
Yeah.
12, 13 years.
Yeah, literally this room. I will be translucent. You could see every ounce of blood pumping through my veins, which might be scary at first. I hope that you get used to it in person, though. But yes, say hi to us if you're going.
Yeah, we're about to find out who's a daywalker and who isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have a lot of ground to cover because we have a guest unlike really any guest we've ever had. But we want to hit a little background first. In 1948, the Topps Chewing Gum Company released a set of collectible cards called Hocus Focus. They actually kind of developed when exposed to light a little bit like a Polaroid. And they were designed for mass appeal, and they touched every important cultural note. They had subsets of actors and actresses, and military leaders, and dog breeds, and of course sports, including Notre Dame football, Major League Baseball, and also professional wrestling, headlined by former heavyweight boxing champion Primo Carnera. And from Gorilla Monsoon to Bruno Sammartino to Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan to WWE and All Elite Wrestling, in the nearly 75 years since an athlete's tiny picture came with a stick of gum for a penny, no sport has evolved as much as professional wrestling. And the whole enterprise depends on headliners who are larger-than-life characters with distinct personalities and athleticism that would be at home in any Olympic or professional sport. An Undertaker, a Giant, a Hitman, a Hulk, a Rock, you know all of these people, but you probably don't have any sense of the journey that got them there. And now we're entering the era of the gamer. So tonight we're joined by All Elite Wrestling's Evil Uno. But before he was evil, he was Player Uno, an NES/Super NES-driven wrestler with a controller on his pants that opponents could pause. They could press the button to literally pause Uno during a match. With tag partner Stu Grayson, he made up the Super Smash Brothers. Over the last 20 years, his Sigma grind set has taken him from school gyms and more three-letter independent wrestling promotions than you can name, right into your TV every single week. Now he's even got his own action figure. And while he's ditched the Player for Evil as part of AEW'S long-running Dark Order stable alongside John Silver and Anna Jay, he still finds time to game. Uno has a popular Twitch channel, a personal YouTube channel. He's a staple of the AEW Games channel. He vlogs, he collects toys, he plays games, and he quizzes fellow AEW wrestlers on their gaming knowledge. But before we talk about what it's like to stream on the road with a grueling travel schedule, Evil Uno has 6 Super Nintendos. How many Super Nintendos is enough Super Nintendos, and is there a limit?
Well, first of all, great introduction. You should write my book. You know way more about me than I do, that's for sure. I need at least 2 in my home, 1 to lend, and then the extra 2 that I have in there, or the extra 3 that I have in there is just in case a previous one breaks. Because I've had, in my years of wrestling, I've acquired a bunch of Super Nintendos, a bunch of NESs, a bunch of every console ever. And I can tell you this from experience, almost every single one of them ends up not working properly. And so it's always good to have a backup.
This is layers of paranoia then.
It's true. It's
About
true.
securing a
Also,
future of
I
gaming.
hoard everything that's given to me, so I have a whole basement full of things.
Well, that was exactly what I was going to ask. Is are people giving you Super Nintendos at conventions and meet and greets and that sort of thing?
They definitely did back in the day. When I
Back
was
in the
playing
day.
Uno, that was like a common thing. Every week, people would give me video games in exchange for T-shirts, or they would give me consoles they didn't want to acquire. They didn't want to keep anymore. The most recent thing that I got was I got about 14 different Sega CD games within packaging and stuff. So that was a month and a half ago. It doesn't happen nearly as much as before. You'd think now that I'm more popular, it would be more often, but I'm less associated with the video game world than I previously was. And so I don't get nearly as many as I used to.
Well, I have to follow up on that because I'm a little bit of a gamer myself. I have a bunch of Sega CD games. They are huge. So this person must have handed you a rather large box to just even give you that many Sega CD games.
It was a grocery store bag. Yeah, one of those.
Oh my God.
Yes. And thankfully I drove to this show, so I was able to drive back home with it. If I was flying, I'd have to ship it probably. The weight alone would be too much.
Mm-hmm.
How big are they? Just I remember them as being like, standard DVD sized things.
No, they're like the size of the Lord of the Rings book. Pretty much.
They're
not like
huge.
Laserdisc sized.
No, not that big.
The boxes.
Yeah, the discs are just discs, but the boxes are gigantic.
Yeah, they're same CD. Mm-hmm.
They're like oddly fragile too. And there was this whole weird thing a couple of years ago. Okay, now we're just getting into like retro gaming thing where these guys, I think it was limited run games, they were trying to reproduce them. Like they went through this months or like year-long process to painstakingly reproduce like the Sega CD jewel case long box thing. And it was this huge saga and it was really hard to do. And, these are the lengths that true retro gaming nerds go through. But the reason they were doing this is because the cases are all cracked and the hinges broke and people wanted to replace them. And they're so freaking expensive now that you can't really just kind of like buy a cheapo game just to use the case because they kind of don't exist. Were there any bangers in the set that they handed over to you? Any?
I did get Sonic CD. I got I'm trying to remember what else was. Night Trap was on there.
Mm-hmm.
So very excited about that. There was a plane game. I'm not 100% sure what that was either. But no, I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. But those were the two that really struck me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when you're streaming, when Matt touched upon this a bit in the intro, but I saw a clip where you're hanging a light on like a garbage can in a hotel conference room or something. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what you go through and what the process is to be traveling as a professional wrestler, but then also having to like lug around, set up, figure out where to do your streams?
Funny enough, today I'm set up on a garbage can once again as my tripod. But what I do is because we travel for television every single week, All Elite Wrestling is a touring company, and our TV shows are on Wednesdays. So we travel Tuesday to Thursday, and every Tuesday to Thursday, I carry around a 60-pound flight case that has my console, a laptop, a key light, a stream deck to do switching on the fly because I don't have a live producer or anything. That's all myself. My camera, and then all my extra equipment. So any of the wiring, any of the my hotspot, so on and so forth. So what I do every single week is I try to find a place that has either decent Wi-Fi or at least has an Ethernet port for me to stream from, and we get the AEW talent, the pro wrestlers that are on our show, to compete in little competitions. With occasionally there'll be prizes, and occasionally there'll be penalties to whoever loses, or we have them play little game shows. And I've been able to set up in most places, but because I lug this all myself and because I don't have a proper setup, sometimes things are propped on garbage cans. So right now you may not know, but I have an upside down garbage can holding up my camera right now for this Discord call. I have my microphone set up into my laptop that is plugged in across the room over there because there's no proper plug here. It's a hellish process every single week, but I'll be honest, I kind of like the difficulty of figuring out every single week how I'm going to pull this off. It's kind of rewarding to me. It's like its own little puzzle. But then when it doesn't work, I feel terrible about it because it single-handedly falls on me. But as of yet, fingers crossed, nothing too bad has happened yet.
Don't the cleaning people think you're doing something sinister? Like they walk in the room to change the sheets or something. It's like, oh, here's a light shined on the bed and a video camera there.
And a leather masked man. Yes.
And a leather mask. Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely have had a few confusing looks. I can tell you that for sure. We typically will rent a conference room in a hotel downstairs, and which means it's one conference room among many. And what will typically happen is that we're the only one that's presenting pro wrestling. So we've got pro wrestlers running around yelling, masked men, myself included, and then everyone else is at a business meeting. So a lot of time people will just be walking by and they're, I don't know, maybe they have a meeting about Excel or something, and they're just walking by and they're seeing this masked man, trying to play Jenga with crab hands. Like that's the kind of content I create weekly. So, but no, yeah, it definitely does leave some questions for people who just walk by. That's for sure.
Doris from Accounts Receivable does like a quadruple take. Have you had any kind of memorably odd encounters in hotels with people who are just confused as to what's happening?
Less so in the hotels, but I wear this publicly at all times, right? So, or not all times. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I wear this 24/7. That would be terrible for your skin. But if I go in public with all Elite Wrestling pro wrestlers as well, I may have to wear it, for appearances' sake. So if I go out, for example, I've done it at Universal Studios, and I've gotten some pretty wild questions. I've had some of the weirder moments have been when I have to ask people in public to take pictures of me. Because, so for example, I went to the Bean in Chicago, and I have to ask a mother of 3 if she could take a picture of this weird S&M man in front of the Bean. And so I'll always get the same question. I'll be like, so what do you do? Because it doesn't scream wrestling right away. If I was wearing a singlet at the same time, it would be a different ordeal, but I'm wearing proper clothing. So a lot of people are very confused as to what exactly I am. Even I'm a little confused as to what I am nowadays. But no, not one there's not one glaring moment, but I've had a lot of weird questions asked to me just because I have to wear this in public settings at all times.
Mm-hmm. If mask mandates forced me to wear a mask like that, I'd wear it everywhere.
You would seem a lot cooler, that's for sure. I could tell you, I had no issues wearing a mask during the pandemic. I'm so used to it. So,
what is the?
Would you put? I got to ask about this. Would you put the mask on the outside or on the inside? Like which way
the
does
surgical
it go?
mask. So I would put the mask within my leather mask. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
I just wanted to briefly ask, what is the kind of what is the icebreaker with these people who are trying to figure out why this guy's wearing this mask? Is it just kind of like, what do you do? Like what exactly do they approach you with?
So I typically prep them by making fun of myself. So most of the time I'll ask them if they can take a picture, and no one is just right off the bat going to be like, what the hell why are you wearing that? So I'll make light of myself. I'll be like, hey, do you mind? I know this will be a little weird. You're probably not used to wearing taking a picture of a masked man before, or of a pro wrestler or something. And I'll kind of intro it that way. Because I find that's a lot easier to get someone to accept to take the picture if I kind of give them an idea that I'm not some creep beforehand. But there are some times that I just haven't thought about it, and then people, they'll kind of linger on the moment and be like, "So, what do you do? Like, why are you wearing this?" But most of the time, I'm conscious enough to give them the heads up.
Mm-hmm.
You ever go up to somebody and just be like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you and your freakish real face?" Like it just totally flipped the script on them. It's like this freak's not wearing a mask. I need a picture.
No, I have not thought about doing that, but that might be a good little bit for me to do next time.
Yeah, I like it.
Put down your can of Hyper Hydro Monster and your Crimson Berry White Claw. It's time to rethink the beverages in your life. We drink a tremendous amount of tea, working on videos, recording the podcast, but we don't drink normie NPC tea. We drink cultured and refined anime tea from the Dragon's Treasure. They've got a gunpowder green tea called Space Cowboy. If you've listened to this podcast before, you know why Kevin likes it. And I used to chew gunpowder green tea leaves when I played baseball in the 90s. I love the stuff. Dragonwell Z, Samurai Chai Plu, black teas, herbals. The Dragon's Treasure describes itself as a haven for anime and tea lovers for a reason. They've even got a tea called Uwu. It's got apple bits and cocoa nibs. It's crazy. I bought the 60 tea sampler pack as soon as I could. I wanted to try everything. It's that good. And when you order from the Dragon's Treasure using the code CREATE, you'll get 10% off your order. That's 10% off using the code CREATE at thedragonstreasure.com. The link's in the description. Look, find me another place that sells Russian caravan tea with a name like, "And then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked." You can't. Thedragonstreasure.com, 10% off when you enter the code CREATE at checkout. The link's in the description below. Get brewing, Space Cowboys.
Well, one of the things that really attracted me to having you on the show is that you are this kind of world walker, where you are in this world of pro wrestling, you're in this world of YouTube, and you're doing a lot, not only for your personal channel and your personal Twitch, but also for the AEW Games channel. So, we're entering this world that continually, no matter sort of what you do as a day job or where your background lies, it's viable to have a presence online. It's viable to have a social media presence that's more than just, angry political retweets, which, there's a market for that, but there's also a market to build your own brand and to be yourself and to have your own vlog where you get to kind of share your life and people get to know you more rather than just seeing you, on their TV once a week. They get to follow you behind the scenes as you're backstage or at a convention or whatever. So I'd love to hear more about like what got you into that side of things, our create unknown side of things of doing, this camera thing and posting to YouTube and so forth.
So, I mean, it's not something that's foreign to me because, so I started wrestling 18 years ago. So a very, very long time ago. But my first little break, outside of, cause I'm originally from, Ottawa, Canada. So there are not a lot of Canadian wrestlers who expand into America and to Europe and so on. They're quite rare. So what gave me my first break was I had a friend who is a very good video editor, and he made a video edit of my first few matches set to Kill Bill. And what that led to is me getting to wrestle with a lot more homes and a lot more places. And it made me realize that like, oh, there's an actual audience on YouTube. And so 13 years ago, I started doing a YouTube channel with local professional wrestlers called the Nerd Slam. And so I essentially what everyone has done now, what up, down in WWE or what we have done on AEW Games, essentially they were Let's Plays. And so they were Let's Plays of pro wrestlers playing video games, but I didn't have the weight of the popularity that we have nowadays. And we were all just mostly local pro wrestlers. And I at that time would also Twitch stream. So this was about 12, 13 years ago. So this is on the infancy of Twitch, just after Justin TV. And so it was something I was already looking at over a decade ago, but I didn't have that extra bit of leverage from my own brand to get any further. And so I kind of gave up on the idea because I wasn't sure if there was going to be life for that content. And then what happened is that during the pandemic, I had so much time to myself that I started realizing that like I want to offer more of myself to the world, and I want to more than just the occasional 3-minute wrestling match, every week. And I want to. I've been doing this for so long. People are well aware that I love video games, and so I figured, okay, I'll start Twitch streaming so that people can attach on to that aspect of me. Because when I'm beating up a man in the ring, I can't really tell you my favorite Elden Ring bosses. It's not really the same. It's not the same demo, and also just not the place to do it. And so I started Twitch streaming so I can get, I could start feeling like my gaming time was also productive time, but it also gave me an avenue to, talk video games with other people, to get some of my friends who play video games with me to also play video games as well. And that gravitated into YouTube content, which opened up the avenue to AEW Games to do the same thing. And so for AEW Games, what I try to emphasize as much as possible is that it's less about the production. It's more about how much fun we're having. And so I try to grab multiple pro wrestlers and try to get them into competitions or stuff that they are into. So, for example, we've had Orange Cassidy go against Luchasaurus in chess battles because they actually both heavily play chess in backstage. So I've put that on Twitch and I've put that on YouTube. And we've tried to present pro wrestlers' real interests to people, because I feel like much what I did for myself, where I got to show everyone a little bit behind the scenes without actually taking off the facade and showing people my interests, I wanted to do the same thing for everyone else. And so honestly, I keep pushing forward into this area of YouTube and Twitch, because one day I won't be able to fall on my back and my neck anymore, but I will be able to play video games. I will be able to produce content. And so it's putting my baskets or putting my eggs in other baskets, but it's also something I'm very, very interested in doing. And it's opened up so many doors for me just by a shared interest with everyone else of creating content and of course playing video games.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like has there been a ripple effect among the talent where other people are getting into this too? Because I always notice that this type of thing becomes infectious. You see somebody have a little bit of success doing a channel, and then somebody says, "Hey, well, I could do that. Why don't I also, start vlogging?" So have you seen it spread a little bit among? Because I have noticed some other AEW wrestlers doing their own vlogs and stuff like that.
Definitely. I think that's a big portion why I got the AEW Games job, is because I started doing Twitch stuff, and I'm not the first one. Obviously, there were other people. Austin Creed has Twitch streamed. So I'm not the very first pro wrestler to do this. But within AEW, I was starting to kind of build steam because people already knew I was a gamer, and so there's been a lot of talent since I've started Twitch streaming who have jumped into it as well. Myself and Adam Cole had jumped in around the same time. And then, Colt Cabana jumped in. Serpentico has started doing it. Brian Pillman Jr. started doing it. Fuego del Sol. So, it is definitely the people who have genuine gaming interest have jumped in to Twitch streaming at the very least. And then the vlogging, I ended up being on the other side of it. Ethan Page was a weekly vlogger who vlogs his toy hunts, and I would go with him fairly regularly, and it's made me realize that maybe I can vlog as well. So I started doing YouTube content based off of his weekly YouTube content, and that opened up to Thunder Rosa doing weekly YouTube vlogs. And so there's a lot of learning from others within this, and I'm sure you're going to see some of for Twitch, for example. Once the pandemic started going down, a lot of those people stopped Twitch streaming because they didn't have really as much time, because we travel so often. And I'm sure the vlogs will be very similar as well. But I'm sure as the years progress, you're going to see more people on Twitch, because I think people are starting to realize that it is acceptable for pro wrestlers to like other things, to enjoy, video gaming. And also, I have pro wrestlers who don't even just game, who paint on Twitch. Twitch is a viable option to do all kinds of things. There's a Chris Harrington, who is our VP of Finance, comes from this podcast, and they do their Twitch streams where they just look over Excel sheets of data from pro wrestling events and from economic backgrounds, or like the quarterlies from WWE. So there's all kinds of avenues that you can go with a live platform like Twitch. And so I think we're going to be seeing more and more wrestlers jumping in and doing their own thing for sure.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It also seems like you get a better connection, with the audience. You get to,
Mhm.
or they get to learn more about you, and perhaps you kind of gain fans in a way that otherwise wouldn't have been possible. I mean, I certainly have seen that in a different way, just branching out kind of to other platforms outside of YouTube. Because the audiences are I don't know how many people, like, unless you're really in the weeds on this, you don't really understand how different the audiences are on the different platforms. You figure, well, everybody has an Instagram, everybody
Everybody's on
has,
everything. Yeah.
and they're not. Like, not
Mhm.
everybody is on it. People really kind of have their go-tos. They have, like, TikTok people like TikTok, Instagram people like Instagram, YouTube people like YouTube, Twitch people
Mhm.
like Twitch. They're really like pockets of audiences, and I don't know how many people really recognize that, but it is important to recognize that
Mhm.
there are different people in different places. So you can hit different people by being in different places is really my point. Um, I know that from week to week, it seems like a grueling thing for anybody to, like, a grueling job for you. I don't know how you have the energy to kind of do all of this stuff, like you mentioned, falling on your back, falling on your head, but then also traveling all the time
Mhm.
and streaming all the time. One of the things that Matt and I have talked about for years now on this podcast is, one, kind of like patience in what you're doing. And another thing is, you never know what opportunities will come down the road.
Yeah.
So obviously you have, persevered through many different opportunities, many different companies, things that have come and gone. Did you ever in a million years think that AEW would even be a thing? Because it didn't. I don't know. I'm way outside the wrestling circle, so what do I know? But AEW is not new, or it's not old. It's only 3 years. It's only three
Mhm.
years old, and from my outsider perspective, there was just not really an alternative to WWE like AEW for the type of wrestler that you are and for the type of wrestlers that are in AEW, because there is a difference, and it's what I personally like about AEW and what got me into it. It was like, oh, this is the wrestling that I used to like. It's back.
Yeah, I mean, AEW is a brand new company. In the grand scheme of things, obviously, pro wrestling has been around so long. This is such a new company, and I never. So I've been, like I said earlier, I've been wrestling for a little over 18 years, and I never envisioned there being another company other than WWE. To be honest, that was to a level that I could reach. I kind of decided early on, because I started when I was a teenager, that I probably would never make it to television. I wasn't 6'5". I wasn't built like a quarterback. I wore a mask, and I liked video games, and so that wasn't really stuff that that jived with what a mainstream professional wrestler was at the time. And so I kind of decided that I was just gonna live on the fringes of pro wrestling. And so for the first 12 years of my pro wrestling career, I mostly wrestled in gymnasiums, little bars. The maximum amount of people you would see there would be 500 people. But then in the last, I'd say 7 years, pro wrestling kind of took a weird turn where, because of YouTube, because of Twitch, because of live platforms and iPay-per-views, and being capable of ordering independent wrestling shows, the independents kind of got a life of its own. And so more and more people started seeing the independent scene. And that kind of is what made Tony Khan open up AEW. He was a big pro wrestling fan. He still is a big pro wrestling fan, but he was a big independent pro wrestling fan in the year 2012 to 2014. And he saw this crop of guys, more specifically the Young Bucks, come from little independents and then start selling out events in front of 8,000 and going to Japan and making big names for themselves. And he started realizing that there is a market for more wrestling, and there is finally a chance to make an alternative. And so he started that in 2019. And I was just lucky enough to have been there long enough, and I had the patience to stick around in professional wrestling. I think a lot of my suggestions to other wrestlers is that you don't know when your moment is going to be, and if you're not there, and if you're not participating, you're not working hard at all times, then your moment may just pass by. My moment just ended up taking 15 years over instead of 1 or 2, and so I was very, very lucky. I'd wrestled the Young Bucks. AEW offered me a contract, and I can tell you for sure I never ever envisioned I would get to national television. I never would envision that a guy of my stature, of my size and my shape, who speaks my way, who wears a leather mask but doesn't do a menacing voice, who pretty much is himself at all times, would ever make it on national television. But now we have a viable place to do that, and that's why you're seeing all these other stars in AEW branch out, because they're showing their genuine version of themselves, like Jungle Boy and Ricky Starks and Will Hobbs and Swerve, and all these people who may not have had an option to showcase their talents previously, now can do it on a large scale and on a large venue and in front of in front of the eyes of national television as well. So it's been very cool. It's been very exciting for me to do this for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that on the record for people listening, because it's something that we like to hammer home, for people who are grinding away at whatever it is that they're doing and perhaps not seeing the results that they hope to see, or, getting discouraged by their channel or their Twitch streams, or, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You could be a professional wrestler, and at some point you say, why am I still doing this? It's a thing that everybody, no matter who you are, asks themselves. It's just natural. And, when I was thinking about your story, I thought to myself, like, here is the probably the best example of not in really, it's really a twofold great example. On one hand, it was a long journey for you. And it was an arduous journey. I mean, it involved a lot of travel and being away from your family and your home, and all of that stuff. That's its own journey. But the heights that you've achieved, at the other end of it, at the other end of this journey, the end of that road. I mean, not the end of the road, but where you are today on it, are incredible. It's freaking incredible, dude! Like, oh my gosh,
big time.
Yeah, you're on television all of the time, and you're like, it's crazy.
I wish I could go back to, because I started when I was 14. I wish I could tell 14-year-old me the highs that I would have achieved, because there's no way 14-year-old me ever thought that they'd be coworkers with Sting, or that they'd be wrestling Goldust 20 years from now. You know what I mean? Like, I've gotten such incredible moments. I've got to wrestle in front of large crowds. I've got to be on TV. I got to be on pay-per-view. I've got to wrestle some of my heroes and meet some of my heroes. I have an action figure, that is
amazing.
That alone is that was such a large realization of how much work I'd put in to see my action figure and to be able to purchase it at the store and to have my mom show it to her friends, and just like that's a physical piece that I can say, okay, this everything else is superficial and it's all opinion based, but like this is an actual piece that showcases that I made it. I to a point that they were able to make an action figure of it. So I've been very, very fortunate. I'm very happy I've gotten here, and of course, like there were a lot of moments during my career where I thought, this isn't it. I can't do this anymore. And I'm sure like every artist out there, if you're a musician or if you're an illustrator or something, you have those moments of doubt where you think, oh, maybe I'm not good at this. And I'm glad I persevered, because, if I had given up the few times that I thought about giving up, then who knows what I'd be doing right now. I'd probably be, doing web design again, which is not what I want to go back to. So yeah, I'm just incredible to see where I've come to, and I try to remind myself that all the time, because I don't want to get jaded that if this disappears in 2 months and I go back to the independents, I don't want to be upset about it. I want to be like, you got to make this moment and I don't ever want to lose that. So
I saw a great thing on Twitter a couple months back. It was around, must have been April. A baseball player was opening up packs until he found the first card of him. And it was that thing where, like, obviously he's made it. He's in Major League Baseball. He has a contract. He has the experience of that he always dreamed of. But it kind of like legitimized it to 9-year-old him when open up the pack of baseball cards, And as you were talking about, you can go into a store and buy this action figure. There is a level that kind of thing hits where it's like, it is officially real now.
It never felt more real than when I was able to hold my action figure. Like seeing it in front of me and realizing that that's me. Like that's it's funny because I've had a lot of those moments throughout the last 3 years of being employed with AEW, but that was one of those moments where it sunk in and it was like, you should be very proud. Like the fact that you have this in your hands is a moment to be proud of. And there are other moments I take it for granted. I travel all this time and I see all these places and I get to wrestle on national television. And sometimes you kind of forget that it's a huge moment, but that was one that I remember thinking like, this is as cool as it gets for sure.
We want to help you make something and mean something. And we say that phrase all the time because when you're making something and it means something, even if it's just to you, that's when you feel pretty good about what you're creating. The support for the Create Unknown in recent weeks has been incredible. Animators, artists, musicians, YouTubers, aspiring filmmakers, comedians, it is crazy how talented everybody in this community is. Consider joining the Create Unknown Patreon. Every dollar that comes through goes straight into the podcast and its community. That means more highlights videos. It means a big Minecraft project that's on the way. And eventually we'd like to manufacture custom piss bottles so you never have to leave your battle station. And being a patron unlocks participation in all of our live recordings. You've seen the roster of guests we've had. Having access to their minds is a unique opportunity. You can go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown or click the link that's in the description. Every little bit helps and your support means absolutely everything to us. Patreon.com/thecreateunknown, links in the description. We appreciate you, Space Cowboys. I do want to reiterate something really quickly because, like Kevin, you were talking about the long, arduous path on this kind of thing. And you were describing it. We've had people talk about the extremes, right? Like I missed last week with Tirzu, but Tirzu was like, I hit upload once and then I was famous 8 minutes later. Like it literally worked out for him from the very beginning. And then we've had the extremes where people have been grinding away for decades to get somewhere. Another recent one, Rick Beato's story in music is truly a 40-year story. But I love Tirzu and Rick Beato and Brendan Caulfield, who did the music for Smiling Friends. We did that episode. He talked about working away in his grandma's basement for many years, making no money. But look, none of these people are actually putting themselves in threatening situations. Like Brendan Caulfield isn't like, I compose music and I broke, I think 14 bones last year doing that. That's not happening. I mean, I respect the hell out of all of these people. However, let's be honest, there's no physical component for, 99.9% of people who do anything artistic like that. How did the physical side complicate that? What is essentially an artistic process?
I mean, it's I pay for it every day, for sure. It's a commitment that you make early on. First day of training. So I teach people back in Canada. I have a wrestling school in Ottawa, and I teach once a week with other teachers. And one of the first things I tell them is that this is a commitment, and it's beyond just a commitment of your time, but this will literally just change your body forever. Because you're not supposed to continuously fall on your back. You shouldn't be giving yourself, essentially miniature car crashes every single weekend. That's not something that is good for your body. But if this is something you really want to do, and if this is something that you're very, very dedicated to do, then you need to know that, like, regardless if you do this a year or regardless if you do this 15 years, when you come out on the other side, you will be a different person because your body will take some serious amount of abuse. And it, you know, like because I've been doing this so long, I've had a laundry list of injuries for sure. But I've been fairly lucky compared to a lot of people. There are a lot of people who don't get to wrestle for 18 years. But not only is putting the wear and tear on your body from pro wrestling difficult, and then continuing on and trying to figure out if this is the right thing for you to do or not, but the wear and tear you get from traveling is probably worse than anything, because a lot of times what happens, especially, you know, nowadays I get flown everywhere, so it's not nearly as bad as it used to be in my independent scene days. But like, I'm from Canada, and so in my city there's maybe an event every 6 weeks, and then if I want to go to another city that's 2 hours or 5 hours, that's as close as it gets. You've got Montreal or Toronto, and none of those places can make a living for you. So if you want to make a living, you got to go to America. So for me to go to America, that's at least a 7-hour drive. So to give you an idea, you know, 3, 4, 5 years in, I would do 3, 4 American dates weekly while working. So I would work Monday to Thursday and go to school, and then I would get into a car. I would travel 9 hours to do a show on Friday night. And then I would travel a couple hours later to Saturday to do another show, and then a couple hours on Sunday. And then I would usually I'd end up doing a show on Sunday in Philadelphia at 4 p.m. And then I would take the 8-hour drive back home that night to get home at 4 a.m. to then go to school at 7 a.m. to then go to work afterwards. So like, I've put a lot of abuse. Yes,
Dude,
I've put a lot of
crazy.
I've put a lot of abuse, and I've put a lot of time into doing this. And I didn't make money for the first. I didn't make good enough money to even bother counting for the first 10 years, maybe. And so it is not for everyone. But I honestly wouldn't change the journey for anything, because it makes it so much sweeter now that I've achieved it. You know, if it was just given to me, I don't think I'd feel nearly as happy about what I have. And plus, I have so many great stories and so many cool adventures from you know, going on the roads and jumping into cars, and it's been not to talk down on other artists and their journeys. It's been a very hard one, but it's been very rewarding.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that some people just hit the right moment with the right thing, and they know, you know, and when they try to make it like it was this tremendous struggle, like it's obvious when it wasn't. You know?
Yeah,
I would love to throw some people under the bus and be like, we all know their tweets, and then we know the reality of what happened. You know, it's like, oh, I had to go back and forth to scratch off the instant win for life lottery ticket that I got. But yeah, it's always obvious when it's real. And I think that, you know, that most people who have achieved any sort of success are, internally at least, they're pretty honest about what they did to get there. You know, whether it was just reliance on luck or natural talent, or they worked this crazy schedule. Yeah, you can't fake it. So I think they're just honest.
Yeah, do you find that a lot of the people on the roster for AEW have, since they have, I assume, pretty similar backgrounds and pretty similar journeys, that they are grateful for where they are, what they have, and are kind of chill for the most part about it?
Yes, definitely. The great thing about AEW is that a lot of the people I've had the 15-year journey with are now people I'm coworkers with. You know, Eddie Kingston and I have had pretty much the same journey. Myself and Orange Cassidy have had the same journey. Chuck Taylor and myself. So all these people have had to go through the gymnasiums, have had, you know, to sell 2 t-shirts to make sure that they can eat for the day. They've gone to an event knowing that they didn't have enough money for gas. You know, they've had to go through all of these journeys the same way as I did, because we went through the same locker rooms and we went through the same paths. And I could tell you, because we have these conversations fairly often, they 100% know that this is special, that this is hard earned as well. You know, because there are some people, and I'm not saying this. I wish I could have started wrestling in the last couple of years, and I was young, because I feel like nowadays more than ever you can make it in professional wrestling way more than when I started in 2003. But like, there are wrestlers nowadays who are 19 who get signed within months, you know, and they don't really know the scope of the work that we've had to put in to get there. And so it's not nearly as sweet tasting for them as it is for us. And, some people might say, well, would you rather have that? Yes, but I also am very happy I did this journey because I feel prepared for it. If I hadn't had this journey, then whatever, when for example, when I get sick and I have to stay 3 weeks in America on my first year, that would have been crippling. I wouldn't know what to do about it. Now I've done this my whole life. This traveling and living in a hotel room I live in a hotel room 90% of my week. So there are certain things that you can only learn from doing this so often. And I think me and all of the other ones who did the independent scene are very thankful for where we are now and are very, don't take it for granted in any way. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how it seems somewhat counterintuitive on the surface, but to have to go through a grind does bring you to a better place later. And I've mentioned this before on many occasions over the years when I've been kind of put on the spot with younger people who are looking to get into content creation of, what they should do, how they, my son wants to be a YouTuber. What should he do? And my response is, go mow lawns. Go
clean the garage.
Go get a job roofing. Go get a job, washing dishes. Don't even worry about the YouTube thing. You need to have life experience.
Yes.
That will help you so much more than me giving you advice on a title and thumbnail will right now. Go do things first, please, that you don't want to do. Do things that you don't want to do.
Preferably things that suck. And it's like when we did talk to Rick Beato and realized that great people come out of bad weather.
It's true.
So
it's true.
Yeah, he said, well, we were all from upstate New York. He's from upstate New York, and he was saying, it's never fully sunny there. It's never actually warm at any point in the year. He's like, that's a great thing that you never really had it too good when you stepped outside. And it's really funny, but at the same time, we know what something like a snow climate does to character.
Yes.
There's a distinct thing that happens when people have snow.
I think they're more than willing to accept the bad sides of things. I've lived with, obviously because I'm in Canada, the snow is 5 months a year. And so to me, if something goes bad, that's fine. There's always a way around it. It's not the end of the world. I've been in enough bad situations in my life to know that I'm going to survive this one, and I'll see another bad situation later on too. But I also seek them out sometimes. I like not, obviously this is not in relation to snow or in other things, but I'll seek things that make me feel uncomfortable sometimes, because I feel like that's when you truly test yourself, and that's when you truly learn something new. If you're doing something that you are comfortable with at all times, you're not really learning. And so I like to put myself and thrust myself into situations that may not necessarily be fun, or may be more difficult than what I need to do. That's also why I have the schedule that I have. I can't tell myself to stop in any way. I like to put myself in situations the reason I Twitch stream and I travel and I pro wrestle and I do appearances and I do independence appearances and I teach and I also run AEW games. It's because I told myself that if I don't say no and I'm able to pull it off, then I'm proving my worth, and I'm putting myself in situations that will help me grow. Because I never want to feel like I've reached it. Because if I've reached what I want to do, then I can only go down. And so if I continue to reach for other things, I continue to have more goals and I continue to have more projects, then there's only forward that I can go. And so I try to. I think that people who seek bad things, or people who have your example, the climate and stuff, but people who have lived hard lives typically come out like diamonds in the end. The more bad experiences you have in your life, the more you typically come out better on the other end, which I'm sure is not for everyone. There's some situations that's not the case, but I feel like the more stuff that is difficult for you to do, the more that you attempt it, the less difficult it is going to be for you next time when you are approached with something that you are not used to doing as well.
Mm-hmm. I think every week we get a little bit closer to coming up with like a grand unified theory of discomfort. Every single week, there's this new little vignette or point that makes me think that you really have to maximize discomfort, but in a good way, just by doing hard things. Because as you were talking about all of the things that you've done and continue to do simultaneously, would you know what to do with yourself if you had it easy?
No, I don't think so. I've tried.
Yeah, that's what popped into my head. That's
Yeah.
like, if this wasn't going 100 miles an hour, that would be such a departure that it would be a tough spot.
Mm-hmm. I think it's habit too. Since I've been doing this my whole life, and I've been trying to reach this level that I'm at right now, rather than take it easy when I did get there. I just wanted to keep working more. Part of it, I think, is just habit that I'm working this hard at all times. But I think another part of it is just wanting more at all times. I'm not satiated with just doing this. I want to do so much more. And is it exhausting? Absolutely. I'd have every right, I think, to just pro wrestle and travel Tuesday to Thursday, and people would be like, "That's more than enough. You travel for 11 hours on Tuesday and 11 hours on Thursday, and then you have a full day of work on Wednesday. That's a full week's of work." But to me, the travel is not actually work, and my work is not actually work. So I keep putting work on my table because I want to produce more. I want to. This will sound real somber, but I may die in 5 years, and
it's reality though. Yeah.
That's the reality of things. I've lost so many friends unexpectedly. And so I want to do as much as humanly possible in the little bit of time I do have on this earth. And so do I burn the candle at both ends? Yes, absolutely. But also I have to, or else I can't get these things done. And I really want to get these things done.
I love this conversation. This is like everything that you're preaching to the choir. I just love it. It's so inspiring, and I hope that people listening are inspired as well, because a lot of it, we live in a time where it really is really easy to be comfortable. It really is easy to just say no to opportunities and figure like, I don't want to do that. Be a lot
Another
easier.
time.
Yeah, I'll do that later, or just that's not for me. And I have to tell you, every opportunity that I've ever had in my life has come from me fighting myself over the urge to say no to an opportunity, fighting myself to say, you should just do it, even though you have trepidation, even though maybe you're anxious about it, or even potentially scared to do that. Or you think that you're not going to be good at it, or you're going to be embarrassed, or whatever excuses that our human brains come up with to create avoidance. We all go through it, but fighting through that and saying, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'll just try it and we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. Those are the only times anything has ever happened for me, because I did the thing. And it's so rudimentary seeming when you put it into those sort of terms where it's like, well, nothing's going to happen unless you do something, but nothing's going to happen unless you do something. And that's just how things work. It's how this world that we're on operates.
Honestly, and if you're not going to attempt it, like even if you did whatever situation comes up to, and you're unsure if you want to do it or not, and you're unsure if you have the energy to do it, the very worst that can happen is that it doesn't work out, and you're in the same place you were before. You just attempted something new. You made some mistakes. You learn from those mistakes in the future. This one didn't work out, but next time, if it happens again, you'll be better prepared. Or, the benefits of it come in. You do it, you do well, and then next thing you know, you have a new avenue to create art, and new avenue for you to express yourself. And so, yeah, I've always a lot of my moments have been the same thing. As I rarely say no. There are only some situations where I would, but I've had those contemplations sometimes where it's like, should I do this? Is this the right thing for me? And can I swear here? Am I allowed swearing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And most of the time, my thought process is always fuck it, which is just give it a try. Just go ahead and do it. If you're terrible at it, then you learn that you're terrible at it. Maybe you learn that you like something and that you're terrible at it and you'll learn to be better. Or maybe you find out you don't like it, you're terrible at it, and you don't have to do it again, and now you know. And so like that's been my approach on all things. Sometimes it leads to bad things and sometimes it leads to good things, but at the very least, it leads to things. And then not just be complacent and not, I like, if my path is straightforward, I want to hit every zigzag possible because who knows where those zigzags will go. I know what my goal is in mind. I don't know what the exact path is going to be. If my goal was to be a pro wrestler on national television, who knows if year 5, if I had said no to lose hundreds of dollars to jump into a bus to go to the States, if that would have not opened the door later on, or not spending 27 hours in a car for one single weekend to go wrestle a total of 6 minutes. Like, if I hadn't done that, would I be where I am today? I don't know that. I honestly don't know, but I can tell you this: I did it. It's a memory I have. I've made plenty of memories during those 26 hours on the car, and I made a ton of memories going elsewhere. And it also shows drive to other people. So it's never wrong to do an attempt to something that you're not good at, or to say yes to something that you may not be sure is beneficial to you, as long as it's not something that would hurt your health. Now, obviously, wrestling not great for your health, but as long as it is something that you could see yourself at least trying, I would go for it. I would go for it always.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about this and Kevin saying that he's really had to push himself to do things, because kind of what's the worst that can happen? It reminded me of something many years ago. I did competitive bowling, and I had a back injury that when things would line up the right/wrong way, it was painful enough to really make my stomach queasy. I'm like, oh, I'm bowling a tournament with literal childhood heroes, including Pete Weber, who the Discord likes quite a lot. Yeah, and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to take like 7 or 8 Imodium pills to stop my stomach so that it can't possibly happen when I'm bowling. Well, it didn't, which is awesome. But after that, the first thing I thought was like, oh, at least I didn't shit myself. Well, you know what? That instantly became the new bar, like for life, because no matter how bad anything is, like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, if you risk something, it's not like you're going to be in front of a bunch of people shitting yourself. Like, it's never going to be that bad. And each time I would think like, well, it's not like I'm going to shit myself. And then I could just do whatever. It didn't seem like a big deal. And as stupid as that story is, I'm saying it because it's stupid. I didn't know that like a goofy, idiotic, like childish humor thing would turn out to be incredibly useful every time a difficult situation or a challenge came up for the next 12 years.
Have you ever crapped yourself while wrestling? Is that a thing?
Question.
Man. Yes, once. I wasn't sure if we were going to get into this story, but yes, I definitely did once. Not a pleasant ordeal, no.
What made it happen? Like, were you ill or did something happen?
So
in the ring
I was ill before the match. And now it's weird. So nowadays, we're a lot more conscious of if we're ill or not, and we would never probably perform with another if you were ill because you would make them ill. But when I started wrestling, people didn't think that way. They didn't think that way about injuries. They didn't think that way about illness. And so I had a very, very bad stomach ache. And rather than not perform, I told myself, I'll do it. What's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst that could happen is that you can get slammed on your back and shit yourself in front of everyone. I'm
laughing at the fact that you took my like number one bar that
yeah.
literally everything clears and smashed right into it.
Well, you think that's the worst that could happen, but honestly, it's not that bad comparatively to other things, So it happened. No one was aware. No one was aware because I wore spandex, thankfully. And since then, I could tell you that There are worse things than shitting yourself for sure, but it is by far one of the most humiliating things that can happen to you in those situations. I can guarantee you that.
So nobody even noticed. Now the bar is even lower.
Yeah,
now the bar is. I could actually shit myself, and it wouldn't be a big deal.
If I shat myself and everyone saw and knew about it, it would be a different situation entirely. Yes.
Yeah, I think I was wearing Dockers. It would have shown.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like there was like some sort of proverb there about a tree falling in the forest. I don't know. We'll just pass over that.
All of this is in Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, I'm sure that it is. Okay, I have a couple of quick ones, and then I wanted to briefly touch upon my interest in wrestling journey. So, all right, here's some quick ones. Does anybody have a tattoo of you?
Yes.
Has that happened yet? Yes. Oh my gosh, really? What was that like?
So I've had many different iterations of my mask throughout the last 18 years. And so I remember the first one ever was this pro wrestler Daphne, who had passed away unfortunately, and she got a ton of pro wrestlers masks across her hip, and she had added one of mine. This was like 12, 13 years ago. And I remember thinking like, this is the coolest thing that anyone's ever done. Like, I can't believe someone would mark themselves with my face. Like, this is incredible. Now I'm at probably like 60, 70 people who have done it. It's still incredible. Don't get me wrong. It's not nearly as incredible as the first time. But it's just so cool to see. Like, I'm a big, obviously, I love illustrations and I love art, and I love fan art of myself. I think that's one of the coolest part of what I do is that I get to see people's art of me. You know, my art is now reflected in their art, and I think that's really, really neat. And so to see people who sport my art in another art form on their body is incredible. I think it's very, very cool. I'm trying to think of the last one. There's definitely one of my masks from last year, and I'm just trying to think if that was the last one I remember. Also, our logo, the Dark Order logo, has been all over the place too. I've seen a lot of those tattoos as well. It is very cool to see someone have a tattoo of your face.
As cool as the action figure, or is it like 1A, 1B?
The action figures, to me, because I'm a child at heart, and I'm still a child at the year of 34, but at the age of 34. To me, there was two metrics of if I made it as a professional wrestler, or three metrics: national television, which I did; action figure, which I did, and now it's to be in a playable character in a video game. So those are the three to me that were the level of what I wanted to achieve as a child. Like, those are the three things that determined to me. Like, if I think Stone Cold, I think Stone Cold's got a cool T-shirt. He's got an action figure. He's on TV, and he's in a video game. I've played at him. Well, I'm 3 out of 4 of the way there now. So the action figure is cooler than the tattoo, but the tattoo is still very cool.
Okay, another quick one is mask cleaning. I need to know.
Yes.
How often do you have to clean the mask? Does it get smelly? What is the mask situation practically like?
So I used to wear spandex masks, and those you could machine wash on low, and then just hang dry. These are leather or soft leather masks that I've started wearing. I think they've got cooler textures. They look better on camera. They're much warmer, and unfortunately, I can't machine wash them. So what I do is I do a warm cloth, a room temperature cloth on the inside, and then fold it inside out to air dry. And then I'll also, because there's crevices inside, I will brush them out with a toothbrush. But I change these masks every 2-3 months because they're soft leather. After a while, it takes my sweat and stuff, and I don't know the scientific. I don't know the science behind what's accumulating on my face, but I don't want to know, and so therefore I try to change it as often as possible. And so this I've worn for about 3 months, and hopefully I will have a new face soon enough. So,
okay,
what do you do with them when they've run their course?
So I keep most of my masks. To me, that's like the coolest memorabilia of my time. I can kind of decipher my growth as an artist by what mask I wore. You know, like I can get a mask from 7 years ago and be like, okay, this is this exact time period. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them ultimately, but you know, I have let some of them go, and I have sold some, or I've given some as gifts before. But I like to keep them throughout the year. It's kind of like a journal of my time as a professional wrestler.
It's a pretty cool journal. All right, so let me give you. I wanna talk up AEW a little bit, because if there's one person listening to this podcast who's going to start watching, that's a win for me. I'd be really happy with that. Hopefully more than one, because it should be, because AEW is awesome. So when I was a very little kid, Hulk Hogan was awesome. Then, you know, Bret the Hitman Hart, loved Bret the Hitman Hart. Even Tatanka, man, Tatanka was so cool. But my interest waned until the Attitude Era of WWF was freaking incredible, and I was glued to every single Monday Night Raw and every pay-per-view and everything. I had a whole group of friends. We would pool our money together. We would buy every pay-per-view. So freaking into all that stuff. Degeneration X and Mankind, and it was just, you didn't know what was going to happen next. It was just a circus, and it was crazy. And then, I don't know, the early 2000s, for whatever reason, I was done. It wasn't of interest to me anymore. I lost interest. I was just out. I didn't think about wrestling. I didn't watch any wrestling. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. It was just not on my radar, and I moved on to other things. My wife was really, really into independent wrestling, and she has some of your merch, literally, in our house. And when AEW came along, she was like blown away by what you're talking about, where people like you and your colleagues and people you grew up with, holy crap, I can't believe all of these guys are on TV now. So she got me to start watching it. And it's like the late 90s for me all over again. We don't miss a single episode. We watch the pay-per-views. We like check on Twitter to see what the matches are going to be for the next Rampage or whatever. And there's an energy to it that's, to me, unlike anything that I'd seen in literal decades. So I would love to hear, and it's not just, it's not just kind of like the gimmicks or the mic work or, you know, the storylines. It's the actual wrestling is so good. It's so crazy. I swear to God, my wife laughs at me, but almost every single match, and I'm not kidding, somebody does something that I have never seen before. I'm like, oh, that's new. I didn't know you could do that. Oh, a stunner off the top rope? Sure, why not? Or like bounce a guy off the rope and then throw him to somebody else. And then it's like, I don't know what's happening, but I really like it. It's just always so different and so exciting to me, especially as somebody who hasn't been watching wrestling and hasn't, you know, I didn't watch Ring of Honor. I didn't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. I haven't seen what I know, you know, I've missed on crazy stuff. But to me, I'm seeing the crazy stuff now on AEW, and it's so cool. So I'd love to just hear about your excitement about like what AEW has kind of brought back to the world of wrestling on a national stage.
So I come from the same generation of wrestling, I think, as you did. I started watching wrestling when I was young, and I loved Bret Hart, and I loved the Ultimate Warrior, and I liked the characters. And then I kind of just don't really remember it as a child until the Attitude Era. That was like the turning point for me in professional wrestling, where, you know, you had Stone Cold, you had The Rock, you had Mankind, you had these crazy characters. It was always so chaotic. You had no idea what you knew you had to watch, because you had no idea what you're going to miss if you didn't watch. And, you know, it very similar to you, because I started wrestling, but also because wrestling had changed on television. It just became kind of cookie cutter, and it became very predictable. You know, like part of it is because I was in the world of wrestling, but another part of it, I think, is because what was so exciting was the chaos of the Attitude Era. And then after that, it became more about a 3-act structure, and you can kind of see how it would be played out. Or, you know, you knew exactly who it would win because you started realizing that it was written for you, and it was written for a certain person, and that you knew that the whole year, for example, it's going to be John Cena winning, or it was going to be so on and so forth. And it became kind of redundant. What what AEW offers, I think, is that chaos again. It's a controlled chaos, of course, but every single week you are seeing the best professional wrestlers in the world, and we're not just talking like the best in America. We're talking about people from Canada, we're from Mexico, from Japan, from Europe. They're all on this one show, and if you have a 2-hour wrestling show, you can expect an hour and 40 minutes of professional wrestling. They don't just talk to you. They don't present to you soap opera moments. What they're showing you is pro wrestling. You're going to see a man fight a man. You're going to see a tag team fight a tag team. You're going to see a woman fight a woman. And you know they're going to be some of the best competitors in all of professional wrestling, because that's what All Elite Wrestling does. It brings the best pro wrestlers and it makes them face against other best pro wrestlers. And they let them, what's so cool about AEW compared to WWE and a lot of other things is it's not micromanaged the same way. You know, they let their artists speak for themselves. So when you're seeing Ray Phoenix versus Nick Jackson, you're not seeing a person's vision of what Nick Jackson and Ray Phoenix want to present you. You're seeing what Ray Phoenix and Nick Jackson want to present to you. So you're seeing these two artists collaborate and show you their very best. And so that's how you get all that innovation that you've been talking about. That's how you get to see something that you've never seen every single match, because people are trying to stand out on their own. They're trying to perform their own art. They're trying to improve their own art, and they're trying to improve the art of professional wrestling every single match. And then on top of that, like on top of having the best wrestlers and that controlled chaos, we also have incredibly young talents that you know you're going to be seeing for the next 10 to 15 years. You know, men and women who are only 22, 23 years old who already seem to have it all. You know, they've got the good looks, they've got the great wrestling, they've got personality. You know you're getting on the ground floor of something. And that's the benefit of watching AEW is you're not only watching the stars of today, but you're also watching the stars that are going to be there for probably the next decade. And, you know, they're larger than life characters, you know, like Ricky Starks, like I mentioned before, I'm a big fan personally. Jungle Boy, you're going to see a whole lot. Darby Allin, who I think is a person who has really spoken to an Attitude Era fan. For me, at least, I never miss a Darby Allin match because I truthfully have no idea what kind of crazy thing he's going to do next. And I think that's part of the fun of AEW is that if you watch an episode of Dynamite or you watch a pay-per-view, you know you're getting your money's worth and you know you're going to see something crazy. You're not tuning into an episode of Dynamite and this is just a lackluster skip till next week episode. You know at least one of these things is going to be insane and you know that all of it is going to be interesting. And it's you know, obviously I work there, and so maybe half of this doesn't seem genuine, but I say this from my heart. I genuinely think this is one of the best professional wrestling shows ever, with one of the most fascinating and incredible roster of all times. Like we have CM Punk, we have Samoa Joe, we have Bryan Danielson, people that when I started wrestling were the top wrestlers. We've got William Regal helping to teach. We've got Dean Malenko helping to teach. We've got Jerry Lynn helping to teach. We have Dustin Rhodes. We have, you know, we have such incredible wrestlers and we're surrounded by such incredible wrestlers and such incredible minds that I can only get excited about what could potentially be the future of AEW because, you know, we're in our infancy, 3 years in. It's exciting and it's new, but it's also growing. You know, our roster is growing. If you had looked at what our show was a year ago, there's no way you would see today's show and think that's the same show because it is always evolving. And I haven't even gotten into the Forbidden Door stuff, which if you're not a wrestling fan, you don't completely understand. But throughout the years, it's been so conventional for a pro wrestling federation to only present to you the wrestlers that are on their television show. AEW doesn't do that. What they do is they offer an olive branch to other promotions. And so the second most watched professional wrestling, or the third most watched professional wrestling show on TV is Impact. And typically, you know, for example, WWE would have never worked with Impact in the past. And I'm trying to think of another wrestling show we've had. Let's say WSX or Wrestling Society X MTV would have never worked with another TV organization to present their wrestlers on their shows. AEW doesn't do that. They open up an olive branch, and that's why we've had people from Japan, from New Japan, who have some of the best professional wrestlers in the world come to our show and wrestle the AEW roster. That's why we have people from Impact come in and wrestle on the AEW Dynamite show. So it leaves it. If you're a pro wrestling fan, it leaves incredible situations that you would never in a decade imagine would happen. And then if you're not a wrestling fan, well, then you're just getting the best wrestlers from every single place in one place. So it's I can't speak well enough of AEW, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as somebody who doesn't know half of these people, and then I get to see them for the first time, it's this weird thing, because I'm sure people who have watched people for years are excited to see them, see these matches. But then for somebody like me who is oblivious, I had to see this for the first time, and it's like, holy crap, who is that? What did they just do? And it's a constant surprise. So you are right when you say it does kind of invoke that Attitude Era must-see TV, where you're like, I can't miss this. I mean, there was a match where I had a phone call or something during it, and so I'm on the phone in the other room, and my wife is just like yelling at me to get back to watch. I think it was the Young Bucks just this past week.
Oh, against the Lucha Bros?
Yes.
On Friday.
Yes. Yeah. And she was like, I have to find this match for you, like on YouTube or whatever, just so you can see, because the whole thing was just completely ridiculous. Just flips and jumping out of the ring and everybody just putting their bodies on the line. And I'm amazed that everyone isn't just like horribly injured all the time with all of the freaking things that happen.
Broken.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Well, that was my sales pitch. I hope that people who haven't heard of it will check it out, and maybe people who have been on the fence about it will hop off the fence and just watch an episode, and it will sell itself. Like,
yes,
I don't have to freaking tell you anything. Just watch the thing, and you'll be like,
just give it one watch. Honestly, it'll do it. If you are even tangentially interested in wrestling, it'll sell you. It'll sell you quickly.
Before we go, I have to ask you about your Fighting Back charity. We didn't even talk about your charity. So could you fill everybody in about the charity work that you do?
Sure. So every August, we run a pro wrestling event called Fighting Back Wrestling with Cancer. It is based out of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. That is where I am from. And it is a tribute event for a fallen friend of mine who passed away in 2013 from cancer. And when he was in hospital, himself, myself, and Mark Polisel from C4 Wrestling, which is the local promotion in Ottawa, talked about running a charity event because we wanted to give back to the cancer ward that was local to our city. And unfortunately, we had prepared the event for August, and our friend passed away in April and could not make it all the way to August. So in his honor, every single year, we run this event, and we raise every single dollar raised from ticket sales is given to the Canadian Cancer Society. But it's evolved over the last 11 years, and it's no longer just a pro wrestling event. We also do a 24-hour Twitch stream with a prominent pro wrestling YouTube page and Twitch page called New Legacy Inc. And they make a donation drive for about 24 hours, and I will join them for it as well. And that gets added to the pool that is made from that wrestling event, and we donate that every year. And so we are this is our 11th year, and we have given a little over $500,000 in the last 10 years.
Wow.
It's really, really gone up in the last few years, in conjunction with the fact that AEW has supported us, and I have a bigger vehicle to push it on. But also, if it wasn't for New Legacy Inc. doing those Twitch streams, we would never raise nearly as much money. And since they've come on board, we've raised over $100,000 every year. So it's been incredible. I'm so excited for this year as well. We'll be announcing stuff very shortly, and you can see that this August. in Ottawa as well.
That's amazing. And it harkens back a little bit to our conversation earlier about kind of, blending these worlds and what the amount of opportunities that arise when you can do that, when you can bring a charity event to Twitch, and now all of a sudden people from all over the world can get involved. It's a great thing. So we'll definitely follow Evil Uno to get updates on that, and we'll put links certainly down in the description for people to find out more and see how they can get involved in that. I have a couple of gaming questions before we let you go, though, because we didn't really get into gaming, unfortunately, but it's a big part of who you are and what you do. So I can't let you off the hook without a couple of questions. One, I'm getting yelled at in the episode chat about platinuming games. Is that something that you're into? Is getting like all of the achievements, all of the trophies? Do you do this?
Very rarely, but that's mostly due to my schedule. I game a lot, but it's at the expense of my sleep. And so most of the time, if I'm gaming, it's in a hotel room or, it's in the middle of the night. And so a lot of the games I like are too big to platinum. I'm not going to platinum the Yakuza games. I love those games, but I don't have 400 hours to dedicate to one single thing. I have so many projects, as I've mentioned previously. And so I very rarely do it. But if I love a game and it is short and I want more of it, then I will do every little piece of it. So there are some exceptions that I will platinum every single piece that I can, but those are quite rare nowadays because I have less time than I used to.
Yeah, fair enough. Especially games like Yakuza, where it's like all those freaking mini games, and
exactly,
the batting cages.
I've done the batting cage missions in every single one, and I've yet to platinum a single one. But I've always told myself, "Oh, this is the one I'm going to platinum," and then many hours of grinding the batting cages and the cabarets and all that stuff. Yeah, I've done them all.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier, not mid sort of suplex, being able to talk about your favorite Elden Ring boss. So we're not going to suplex you, during this podcast, but you do have the opportunity to talk about your favorite Elden Ring boss. So,
oh man, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Can you choose? You can't pick.
This is tough.
Do you have one, Kevin?
I don't know. There are so many. The game has like 100 something.
I'd almost have to relist them just to refresh my memory, because I feel like I finally beat it, which took a very long time considering I'm traveling all the time. And there are a ton that I really like, obviously Millennia, and then I really like the Fire Giant a lot. I don't know what. Okay. Aesthetically, I thought it was cool that you fight a giant and you tear its leg off, and like I thought that was pretty neat. Gideon is pretty cool. Geez, man, I don't know what my personal favorite would be.
I think I like the earlier bosses because I struggled with them a little bit more. Like once I got powered up enough, a lot of the bosses I kind of just destroyed. I watched this great video. Okay, now we're going to get into like FromSoft stuff. But I watched this great video today talking about from this YouTuber who, after finishing Elden Ring, went back and played Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls. And they were talking about how in the original Dark Souls, those bosses are really like the main gameplay mechanic almost. Mm-hmm. Like each boss has a unique thing really that it's trying to teach you to do in order to defeat it. And he was talking about how Elden Ring doesn't really have that. That really the point of Elden Ring is the exploration.
Yes.
And I vibe with that. I was like, that is actually really true. Like Elden Ring really is just about wandering around. And whereas anybody who's played those, especially the original Dark Souls, they know every nook and cranny of those freaking bosses because you have to in order to defeat them. Whereas in Elden Ring, it was really more like, what is your setup and what are you using? And like you can artificially limit yourself in order to memorize the movesets. You don't have to. You can also, Spirit Ash and whatever your setup
There's
is.
definitely a lot more
use some
methods.
bleed.
There's a lot more methods to tackle the bosses in this one than there are in the previous ones, for sure. With like the ashes, way more weapons. Also, just because you don't have to fight every boss, unlike Dark Souls 1, you could just. I do agree where it's a lot more exploration based. Kind of like Breath of the Wild, where it's just about, can I get to that thing? And yes, I can. Like that's, to me, that's what I like the most about Elden Ring. I like all the Souls games. Bloodborne's my personal favorite.
Yes. Agreed.
Aesthetic and also just story wise, I like it the most. But
yeah,
this one, like there was a sense of awe at all times in this game, because you're continuously like finding more things and finding underground levels and finding out that there's a whole other map elsewhere, and like all of that stuff. The mystery and the sense of discovery, I think, is what made that game much better, much cooler than the previous Souls games.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the chat is spazzing out about one more question before we let you go. It says, ask Uno about visiting Naughty Dog Studios with the AEW team. What was that about?
So last Tuesday, while we were in Los Angeles, we visited Naughty Dog Studios. Our referee Aubrey has a person who works there that she is friends with, and so we were fortunate enough to walk around, get to see their offices, get to see their many awards. They have won many awards, an alarmingly large amount of them. Got to see some of the stuff that they're actively working on. It was neat. It was very cool. I wish I had cool things to say about it, but I signed an NDA, and so I can't say more. But it was an enjoyable experience. A lot of very nice people. A great office. Very, very cool office.
No Uncharted 5 details.
No, that's right. You won't be getting it from me.
All right, man. Well, we will let you out on that. This has been great. Look, if you need Evil Uno in your life, you can do that on Twitter. You can do that on YouTube. You can do that on Twitch. Mm-hmm. You definitely need AEW in your life. You can do that every Wednesday night and every Friday night. And I highly recommend it. This is my sales pitch to everybody out there. Even if you have been disinterested with wrestling like I was for 2 decades, look, it's back, baby. We're back. Wrestling is back.
It's finally here.
Exciting. Yeah. It arrived. It's like when your dad goes to the gas station to get cigarettes and he doesn't come home.
He's finally come.
He came back. Dad came home.
A very precise situation.
Yeah, he's got the milk carton that he meant to go get 22 years ago. Thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy schedule. It was a pleasure, man.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really enjoyed this.
All right. Well, we will be back next week. Until then, we're out of here. See you, Space Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to The Create Unknown. We make this show with the support of our patrons. 100% goes directly to keeping episodes going every week, and we've been shocked by all the new support this year. The World's Ending and I'm Late for Work, Gib Tom, Sid Poke, Demetrius, Atrocious Guff. You guys really do make this show happen. Thank you to the Tots and Dumpster crew, old and new, who save tiny little lives every month. And thank you to our grizzled, battle-hardened child infantry. Jen Mefasanti, Kevin Menard, Mikhail Steinke, Risebread, Sean Malone, Triple Question Mark, Ryan, Kamikaze, Maria, Marco Sheep, Tom Videogre, Jeltsies, and Dan the Latch. And a tremendous shout out to our elite Baby Gang commanders, Linus and Trevstead, Boromir, Bot Dogs, Chinchilla, Isaac, Conrad, James, Andrew, Jeff Davis, Patrick Pister, Baseweight, Monahim, Dojangles, and Zero. You really are the elite. Thank you as well to our indentured servants, producer-editor Ben Webster, Discord Savior Latterman, and producer emeritus Dan Yoshua. And thanks to Baseweight for the use of Created in the Unknown for the opening theme, and to Electro Voice for giving us mics to sound good on top of it. The Create Unknown is an Unknown Media production in partnership with Studio 71.